Welcome to In Conversation with MANWAR KHAN podcast. This podcast is brought to you by the Do Not Be a Bystander campaign. You can join us in raising awareness about bullying by visiting the donotbeabystander.com, and be sure to subscribe to the channel to stay informed about upcoming episodes. Today's participants are Shanza, Afsa, and Faiza. Our special guest for today's episode is Gary Simpson.
Welcome to our Bullying Awareness podcast. I'm your host, MANWAR KHAN. Today, I'm joined by three young individuals who are ready to share their thoughts and insights on the topic of tolerance. Tolerance is an important quality that involves accepting and respecting the beliefs, opinions, and the behaviors of others, even when they differ from yours. Before we continue, I would like to introduce our participants, Sanja, Abza, and Faiza. Thank you for joining us today. And also our special guest for today's podcast, Gary Simpson. Gary will shed some lights on this topic and give some tips and advice to our participants and our viewers. I would like to talk a little bit about Gary. Gary is ordained minister and a semi-retired teacher counselor. He's an activist and volunteer with Stop Hate 2000. That is a group that works to reduce prejudice, discrimination, bullying, and hate. Thank you everyone for joining us here today. Thank you, Gary, for joining this podcast. Now that we have introduced our participants and guests, let's get started with our question. Tolerance is vital in our society as it promotes inclusivity, peaceful coexistence, human rights, personal growth, and social progress. So my first question for Shanza is, what does this word tolerant mean to you, and why tolerance is important for our society?
Yes, so for me, tolerance means accepting and respecting the beliefs, opinions, and behaviors of others, even if they differ from our own. It is the ability to coexist peacefully with diversity and to treat others with fairness and open mindedness, regardless of their race, ethnicity, religion, gender, or any other characteristic. And yeah, tolerance is important in our society as it promotes inclusivity, social harmony, respect for human rights, empathy, personal growth, and peaceful resolutions of conflicts. By embracing tolerance, uh, we can foster a society that values diversity, equality, and understanding, creating a better world for everyone. Thank you. That's all.
Excellent. Great answer. So tolerance refers to acceptance, respect, and understanding of different beliefs, practices, or identities, especially when they differ from one's own, right? So my question for Afsa is, do you think tolerance means accepting everything without question? Why or why not?
Okay. So tolerance can be an important value in promoting empathy and respect for diverse perspectives and beliefs. However, accepting everything without questions might not be the most effective approach. I think thinking and questioning can help us evaluate and challenge ideas and develop personal growth. It is important to strike a balance between being tolerant and open minded while also engaging in raising valid questions when needed. And doing so can encourage a constructive conversation and develop progress in society.
Great. Wonderful answer. You're right. Accepting everything without question. That part I like it. Yeah. You need to ask questions, get a clarification first. Right. Perfect. So, the ability to disagree with someone's ideas or opinions while still practicing tolerance is essential aspects of fostering diverse and inclusive. So my question for Faiza is, this is the last question, Faiza. Is it possible to disagree with someone's idea or opinion while still being tolerant, and how?
In my opinion, yes, it is possible to disagree with someone's ideas or opinions while still being tolerant. Because tolerance involves respecting and accepting the right of others to have different viewpoints, even if we don't agree with them. First, we need to give the person a chance to fully express their views and opinions without interrupting or dismissing them. We should be understanding of their opinion and express our disagreements in a calm and respectful manner. And instead of attacking the person, we should challenge their ideas with logical reasoning. And most importantly, disagreements are normal, but we should accept it and move on as people can have different beliefs and opinions. Thank you.
Wonderful. Great answer. Thank you. So, with the completion of our question, we will now move on to the final segment of this podcast. I would like to invite our special guest, Gary, to share his thoughts on this topic.
I think this may be one of the more challenging topics because wording sometimes is things that we fight about as opposed to, like you were saying, disagree with respect. I like the emphasis in the definition on fairness. I think that's really important. So we are approaching tolerance and the idea of treating people with fairness. I don't think we're making any mistakes. I like the idea that it helps encourage and values diversity, equality, and understanding. So I really love those elements of the definition that was given. Thank you. That's wonderful. Does it mean accepting everything? That's was very well handled as well. Because I think through disagreeing, if we do that carefully and cautiously, I like this idea of constructive conversation. And then, of course, the third question we were talking about, respecting and accepting people can happen while disagreeing with them. So I really liked all of the points that were being made. There are some people that don't like the word tolerance, and I'll kind of see if I can explain why. It's one that the government of Alberta used for many years, and it is a good word. One of the reasons why some people don't like the word tolerance is I can tolerate as in put up with, people who are different than I am, as opposed to embracing. But when I got this sense from the discussion that you probably are thinking of embracing more than tolerating. And embracing and celebrating is different than agreeing with everything. So I'm a Christian, for example. I would feel hugely complimented to be invited to a Jewish or a Hindu celebration of faith. I obviously wouldn't be celebrating quite the same way a person who's a part of that faith tradition would be, but I would feel so privileged to be there. And to me, that'd be very, very meaningful. And I can celebrate people of different religious backgrounds without stopping being who I am. So I can do that, and I think I can celebrate people of different other convictions and beliefs and lifestyle practices and so on, and celebrate those things. Like I can celebrate a person's birthday or wedding anniversary or the date they first met their life partner, all those things without necessarily compromising who I am. So I like that idea that you had brought in about celebration, or that I have, sorry, about celebration to add to that, because that came from the idea of celebrating, not tolerating, came from Mickey Wilson, who is a spiritual leader. He's been a minister for many years, and for a few years he was director of a social service agency here in the city of Edmonton. And I like that idea of celebrating. I think that fits with the definition we got of valuing diversity, equality, understanding, and treating people with fairness. I think I can see that all just fitting together so well.
Yeah.
That's probably about all I have to share.
All right. Excellent. Thank you so much. Any questions for Gary?
No, thank you.
Thank you for your words, Gary.
Thank you.
Excellent. So we have come to the end of this podcast. I would like to thank our participants, Shanza, Afza, and Faiza. And also, I want to thank Gary for joining us to the podcast today. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. Before we wrap up, I would like to remind our listeners that there are several resources available to help individuals dealing with bullying. The government of Alberta has bullying helpline, which provides support and advice to those experiencing bullying. The helpline can be reached at 1-888-456-2323. Bullying is a violation of human right. Under no circumstances, bullying is acceptable. Thank you for joining in conversation with MANWAR Khan, and see you next week. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.